On a cold winter's day in 2004, a seasoned logger named Jack Thompson set off for what would be his final trip into the vast, unyielding wilderness of the Pacific Northwest. Known for his rugged spirit and deep connection to the forest, Jack had often sought solace in the quiet embrace of nature, but this time he never returned. Days turned into weeks, and weeks morphed into years, as hope dwindled for his family. The search efforts, though exhaustive, yielded no trace of Jack. His disappearance became a haunting mystery, lingering in the hearts of his loved ones, especially for his daughter, Emma. For 19 long years, she held on to the hope that somehow, somewhere, her father was still alive. The days turned into sleepless nights for Emma as she grappled with the loss of her father. Each passing year marked another birthday, another holiday, another milestone reached without him. The pain of uncertainty gripped her heart tightly, forcing her to confront the grim reality that Jack might never be found. Yet deep down, Emma clung to the belief that one day something would surface to shed light on her father's fate. Little did she know, the turning point was just around the corner. In early 2023, a team of search and rescue volunteers, accompanied by specially trained rescue dogs, embarked on a routine mission in the remote area where Jack had last been seen. As they navigated through the dense underbrush and snow-laden trees, a dog named Max suddenly stopped in his tracks. His nose twitched with excitement as he unearthed something buried beneath layers of snow. As the handlers approached, their hearts raced at the prospect of what they might find. What they discovered was nothing short of astonishing. A cabin frozen in time, and a grim reminder of what had once transpired. The rescue team quickly identified the structure as Jack's cabin, a place known only to a few. The interior was remarkably intact, untouched by time, yet eerily abandoned. Old photographs hung on the walls, and remnants of meals long since prepared lay scattered across the table. The chilling realization washed over the team. They had stumbled upon a crucial piece of the puzzle that had eluded the authorities for nearly 2 decades. Emma received the news with a mix of dread and anticipation. The cabin, a long-lost fragment of her father's world, had been rediscovered, and with it the possibility of answers. But as she prepared to confront the past, she was met with skepticism from the authorities, who had long since closed the case. To them, Jack Thompson's disappearance was just another unsolved mystery filed away in the annals of time. But for Emma, it was a chance to reignite her father's story and to uncover the truth that had remained hidden for far too long. Emma decided to take matters into her own hands. Fueled by a burning desire for closure, she began her own investigation. Armed with photographs of the cabin and the scant evidence unearthed by the rescue team, she reached out to local historians and former law enforcement officers, piecing together the timeline of her father's last known days. She combed through archived news articles, hoping to find even the smallest detail that might lead her closer to understanding what happened that fateful winter. As she delved deeper into the investigation, Emma discovered something unsettling. Whispers of Jack's past began to surface, rumors of a hidden life that contradicted everything she thought she knew about her father. Friends and acquaintances recounted tales of his secretive behavior leading up to his disappearance, sparking questions that pierced through her heart. Who was Jack Thompson, really, and what darkness might he have been hiding? Even as Emma pressed on, she faced resistance from those who had long since moved on from the case. Many were skeptical of her pursuit, dismissing her as a grieving daughter clinging to false hopes. Yet the more she uncovered, the more it became clear that Jack's disappearance was entangled in something far more complex than a mere accident in the wilderness. As she pored over old photographs and documents, Emma stumbled upon a cryptic note buried within a box of Jack's belongings. It contained a series of coordinates and a message that hinted at a rendezvous. The implications were staggering, suggesting that Jack may not have ventured into the woods alone. Was it possible he was meeting someone? And if so, who were they? The quest for truth became an all-consuming endeavor, propelling Emma deeper into a world shrouded in secrecy. With each step forward, the shadows of doubt loomed larger. What if the answers she sought were more painful than she could imagine? Yet driven by love and an unwavering need for closure, Emma pressed on, determined to uncover the layers of truth that lay buried beneath the icy facade of her father's past. As we journey alongside Emma through the labyrinth of her father's life, we'll explore the darkness that cloaked his final days. The cabin, once a sanctuary, now stands as a testament to unanswered questions and unresolved pain. What really happened to Jack Thompson? And what secrets lie in the frozen silence of the woods? Join us as we dive into this chilling mystery, following the heart-wrenching path of a daughter seeking closure for a father lost in the shadows of time. The truth is waiting to be uncovered, and with each revelation, the chilling reality of Jack's disappearance becomes more haunting. As Emma meticulously examined the contents of the cabin, she uncovered a trove of personal belongings that had remained untouched for nearly 2 decades. Among the relics of Jack's life, she found his journal, its pages yellowed and brittle, filled with the thoughts and reflections of a man who had once seemed invincible. But as she read, a more complex picture began to emerge. His entries hinted at growing anxieties and fears, detailing encounters with people in the area that he described as increasingly concerning. Emma noted a name that kept surfacing, a local man known for his reclusive nature and rumored connections to unsavory dealings. With each mention, the unease in Jack's writing seemed to grow, suggesting that perhaps he had stumbled upon something he wasn't meant to see. Was this man connected to her father's disappearance? The idea gnawed at Emma, intensifying her resolve. Driven by an insatiable curiosity and a lingering sense of dread, Emma reached out to law enforcement once more. However, her inquiries were met with skepticism. The case had grown cold, and the officials deemed it a lost cause. They had long moved on from Jack's story, viewing it as another unsolved mystery in the annals of the past. But Emma refused to let the case slip through the cracks of time. Determined to forge her own path, she began to investigate the local community. Conversations with residents revealed conflicting accounts about Jack's last days. Some recalled him as a friendly face, while others spoke of him in whispers, hinting at a man who had known too much. Emma learned of clandestine meetings in the woods, discussions that hinted at illegal activity, drugs, poaching, perhaps even something more sinister. One night, a breakthrough arrived unexpectedly when Emma received an anonymous tip. The caller, a tremulous voice on the other end of the line, claimed to have witnessed Jack's last moments. The details were vague but chilling: a confrontation in the woods, a struggle, and the unmistakable sound of a gunshot. Emma's heart raced as she contemplated the implications. Was her father truly in danger, and had he paid the ultimate price for uncovering the truth? As she delved deeper into the community's whispers, Emma began to feel the weight of eyes upon her. The more she uncovered, the more the shadows seemed to close in. It became clear that her pursuit of the truth was stirring something dark and dangerous. The local man she had read about in her father's journal was known for his temper, and Emma found herself questioning whether she was prepared to confront him. With mounting dread and a growing sense of urgency, Emma prepared for what could be a perilous confrontation. Armed with the fragments of her father's life and the newfound knowledge of his fears, she resolved to confront this man, to demand answers that had long eluded her. As the icy grip of winter tightened around the cabin, so too did the suspense. The truth loomed, dark and foreboding, waiting to be unveiled, a truth that could shatter the last remnants of her father's legacy or finally provide the closure Emma had desperately sought. Emma stood at the threshold of uncertainty, her heart pounding as she recalled the chilling warnings embedded in her father's journal. The mention of a man whose anger was known to erupt like a storm made her stomach churn. This was not just a search for answers. It was a plunge into the shadows where danger lurked. As she approached the man's property, a sense of foreboding washed over her. The house loomed like a fortress, its windows dark and uninviting. Yet Emma felt compelled to push forward. She had to confront the past, to unearth the secrets that had long been buried beneath the weight of silence. But what she was about to discover would change everything. Knocking on the door, Emma's breath caught in her throat. After what felt like an eternity, the door creaked open, revealing a man whose weathered face bore the scars of a difficult life. His eyes narrowed as they met hers, suspicion flickering behind them. "What do you want?" he growled, his voice low and gravelly. Emma forced herself to speak. "I'm looking for answers about my father. I know he was here before he disappeared." For a moment the man seemed to hesitate, his demeanor shifting as if a mask had slipped. Then, without warning, he laughed, a harsh, humorless sound that sent chills down Emma's spine. "Your father was poking around in things that didn't concern him. He should have known better." Confusion washed over her. What could her father have unearthed that warranted such a response? In that moment, a flicker of realization hit Emma like a bolt of lightning. The community's whispers weren't just idle gossip, they were warnings of something much larger than her father's disappearance. She pressed on, determined to get to the truth. "What did you mean? What was he involved in?" The man's expression hardened. "You really don't know, do you? Your father stumbled onto something dangerous. You should leave it buried." His tone was both a threat and a plea. Emma's mind raced. What could possibly be so significant that it led to her father's disappearance? As she stood there, a knot of fear and anger tightened in her chest. The man's warning rang in her ears, but she wouldn't back down. "I need to know what happened. You owe me that much." Just then, a flicker of hesitation crossed his face, and for a fleeting moment, it seemed as if he might relent. But then he stepped back, retreating into the darkness of his home. "You're in over your head, girl. There are things you don't understand." In that instant, Emma felt a rush of adrenaline. She couldn't let this moment slip away. She had to dig deeper to uncover the truth hidden beneath layers of fear and secrecy. As she turned to leave, she caught a glimpse of something in the corner of her eye, a worn-out box tucked away in the shadows of the porch. Curiosity piqued. She quickly scanned her surroundings before reaching for it. Opening the box, she uncovered a trove of photographs and documents. Among them was a series of images depicting her father with unknown individuals, their faces obscured but their intentions clear. One photo showed her father standing alongside the very man she had confronted, a knowing smile exchanged between them. Emma's breath hitched as realization settled in. Her father wasn't just a victim. He had been involved in something far more complex, a web of deceit that intertwined with the very fabric of the community. In that moment, the truth crashed over her like a tidal wave. The disappearance was not merely a case of a man lost in the woods. It was an entanglement of dark secrets, hidden alliances, and betrayal that reached into the heart of the town. And the more she uncovered, the more she realized that the danger was far from over. Her investigation had just taken a perilous turn, but Emma knew she couldn't turn back now. The pieces were falling into place, and she was determined to confront whatever lay ahead. Little did she know, the real danger was waiting just around the corner, ready to strike. And with this new revelation, the question loomed larger than ever. Was her father the hero of his own story, or a pawn in a much darker game? Emma felt the weight of the photographs in her hands, each one a reminder of the tangled reality she was now part of. The search for answers had become a race against time, and the stakes had never been higher. With her father's name overshadowed by whispers of betrayal, she knew she had to dig deeper. Days turned into sleepless nights as Emma combed through old records, reaching out to anyone who might have known her father during those final days. She found former logging colleagues, friends from the past, even acquaintances who had long since moved away. Each conversation chipped away at the facade of normalcy that had blanketed the town for nearly 2 decades. But with each lead, skepticism loomed. Authorities had long dismissed the case as a tragic accident. Emma's inquiries were often met with dismissive shrugs or polite but firm refusals to revisit the past. Yet she pressed on, undeterred. If her father had been involved in something sinister, she needed to know the truth. One afternoon, while sifting through the dusty archives of the local newspaper, Emma stumbled upon an article that caught her eye. It detailed an unsolved string of thefts that had plagued the town around the time of her father's disappearance. The thefts, which involved valuable timber and equipment, had been attributed to a mysterious gang operating in the area. The article mentioned a prominent local businessman, a figure that had always loomed large in her childhood memories, a man who had often hosted gatherings where her father was present. Emma's heart raced as she pieced together the connections. Could it be that her father had uncovered something that put him in danger? Had he been silenced to protect an operation that thrived in the shadows? The questions multiplied, and with them, so did the urgency of her investigation. With newfound determination, Emma reached out to the author of the article, an aging journalist named Harold, who had been covering the town's stories for over 30 years. Harold, intrigued by her quest for truth, agreed to meet her. His knowledge of the darker corners of the town could be invaluable, and Emma hoped he would shed light on the connections that had eluded her thus far. As she prepared for their meeting, a chill ran down her spine. She was venturing deeper into a territory fraught with danger, and yet she felt an almost magnetic pull towards the truth. Emma could sense the shadows closing in around her, as if the very community that had once embraced her family was now guarding its secrets ferociously. The day of the meeting arrived, and Emma felt a mix of hope and apprehension. She entered the quaint diner where they agreed to meet, scanning the room for Harold. The familiar smell of coffee and breakfast wafted through the air, but it did little to calm her nerves. When Harold finally arrived, his eyes were sharp, revealing a depth of understanding that only decades of experience could provide. They exchanged pleasantries, but Emma could see the wariness in his gaze. It was clear he knew more than he let on. As they settled into their booth, Emma wasted no time. She laid out her findings, the photographs, the newspaper clippings, and the connections she had begun to unravel. Harold listened intently, his expression grave as she spoke. Finally, he leaned closer, lowering his voice. "Emma, there are things about your father's disappearance that have never been said," he began. The weight of his words hung in the air, thick with implications. But just as he was about to divulge what he knew, a shadow fell over their table. Emma turned to see a familiar face, one she hadn't expected to see that day. It was the man from the photographs, the very one who had stood so close to her father. Before she could react, he locked eyes with her, and a silent tension charged the atmosphere. Emma's heart raced as she realized the walls were closing in. The truth was closer than ever, but so was the danger. Emma's mind raced as she assessed the situation. The man from the photographs, the one who had loomed over her father's legacy, was now standing before her, an enigmatic figure with secrets etched into his expression. The diner, once a sanctuary of hope, now felt like a trap. "Can I help you?" Emma managed to say, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside her. He smirked, a calculated smile that did nothing to ease her anxiety. "I didn't expect to see you here, Emma. Digging up old bones, are we?" Harold, sensing the shift, placed a hand on Emma's arm, a silent gesture of support. "We were just discussing the past," he replied cautiously, his eyes narrowing. "Some things are best left buried," the man shot back, his tone dripping with menace. He leaned in closer, lowering his voice. "You're playing a dangerous game, little girl. You don't know what you're getting into." Emma felt a chill creep up her spine. The stakes were rising, and this man was a clear warning, but she wasn't ready to back down. "I'm looking for the truth about my father. You were close to him. You can help me." His eyes flickered, revealing a flash of something. Fear, maybe, or anger. "You think you want the truth, but some truths will destroy you." With that, he turned on his heel and walked away, disappearing into the din of the diner. Emma's heart thudded in her chest. She had just faced a man who knew too much, someone who might hold the key to her father's fate. Harold broke the silence that followed. "You need to be careful, Emma. He's not someone to take lightly." Determination surged within her. If this man was tied to her father's disappearance, she had to confront him. But first, she needed to gather more information. After their meeting, Emma spent countless hours sifting through everything she had collected, the newspaper articles, the photographs, the maps that marked her father's last known locations. She meticulously pieced together the timeline of events, searching for anything that could connect her father to the man she had just encountered. As the days turned into nights, Emma's obsession deepened. She discovered that her father had been involved in a local logging dispute, one that had escalated into threats and confrontations. Several names surfaced in her research, each one possibly linked to the man she had just met. But there was one name that sent a jolt through her, a name tied to a criminal organization known for silencing those who got too close to the truth. Emma's blood ran cold as she realized the implications. She began reaching out to old contacts, anyone who might have known about her father's dealings. Many were hesitant to talk, the fear of repercussions evident in their voices. But one man, an old friend of her father's, agreed to meet her, warning her of the risks involved. As the sun dipped below the horizon, she found herself in a shadowy bar, the air thick with the scent of whiskey and secrets. She waited anxiously, her heart pounding in her ears. When the door swung open, her breath caught. There he was, the old friend, his face lined with years of hard living, but it was the fear in his eyes that sent a shiver down her spine. "You should have left it alone, Emma," he said, glancing over his shoulder as if expecting someone to follow. "I can't stop now," she replied, the resolve in her voice stronger than ever. "I need to know what happened to my father." As they spoke in hushed tones, the weight of the truth began to settle over her. The threads of a dark conspiracy were woven deep into her father's last days, and she was determined to unravel them, no matter the cost. But as Emma prepared to dig deeper, a sense of foreboding hung in the air. Someone was watching, and the walls that had once seemed sturdy were beginning to crumble. She felt it in her bones. The confrontation was coming, and the answers would not be easy to uncover. As Emma pieced together the fragments of her father's life, she realized the truth was far more sinister than she had ever imagined. The old friend revealed the extent of the corruption that had ensnared her father, a network of deceit and betrayal stretching beyond what she thought possible. The night of her father's disappearance was not an accident. It was a carefully orchestrated plan to silence him. Driven by this revelation, Emma confronted the ringleader, a figure once trusted, now unmasked. The meeting was tense, the air crackling with unspoken words. She demanded answers, her voice steady despite the turmoil within. "You took my father from me. Why?" The reply was chilling. The ringleader's justification twisted her stomach. "He was a loose end, Emma. We had to protect our interests." In that moment, Emma realized that justice would not come from the authorities, who had long since dismissed her father's case as unsolvable. It was up to her to expose the truth. She documented every detail, collected evidence, and rallied support from others who had fallen victim to the same web of lies. The fallout was swift. Emma's relentless pursuit of justice forced the authorities to reopen the case. With mounting pressure, they were compelled to act. In a matter of weeks, arrests were made, and the conspirators were brought to trial. The courtroom was filled with echoes of her father's name, each mention a painful reminder of the loss, but also a step closer to closure. Finally, as the gavel struck and justice was served, Emma felt a bittersweet sense of relief wash over her. She had not only uncovered the truth, but had also honored her father's memory. The pain of his absence would never fully fade, but she had transformed her grief into a beacon of hope for others still searching for answers. In reflecting on this harrowing journey, Emma understood that the fight for justice is often fraught with challenges. It requires unwavering courage and a steadfast belief in the pursuit of truth. This case served as a reminder that even in the darkest corners of human experience, the quest for justice can illuminate the path forward. As we conclude this story, we are left with a powerful question: how far would you go to uncover the truth? Emma's journey teaches us that sometimes the most daunting battles are fought not in the courtroom, but in the hearts of those who refuse to give up on those they've lost.